today. My name is Erica and I'm with UMBC Recreation. If you are new to this class or new to yoga, it is a Vinyasa based class, which means you'll notice a repetitive to our movement. There is a flow-like sequence, and we often tie the movement in with our breath. So I'll be cueing inhales and exhales almost as much as I'm cueing you in and out of your poses. I won't just call out poses and expect you to know where we're headed. I keep that in mind since I can't see you guys. I have to cover all my bases, so I will build us up into a pose which works out if you are new to yoga. And then since we are repeating those poses throughout the class, I'll give a little less direction as we go on. I want to remind everyone to always listen to your body throughout the class. If you need breaks, you can take a break and hop back in whenever you're ready, and always check with your doctor before you start a new exercise plan. One last thing I do want to mention for new to yoga practitioners today, we do finish the practice in a final rest period. We lay flat on our back in stillness with our eyes closed for about 2 to 3 minutes. And the focus of that part of the practice is to not only absorb all the benefits from the class, give our body some time to reset and recover, but it's also a time for self-reflection and a time to be alone with our thoughts. We don't spend much time when we're just being still and focusing on our thoughts. The only other time during our day when we get sort of close to that is when we're about to go to sleep. And yoga is not just about what we do in our physical body and the stretching and the exercising, it's also a time for self-reflection. It's just as important as the work we're putting into our body. Now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. Today we're gonna start laying down flat on our back. Start by sitting in the center of your mat with your knees bent, feet on the floor, facing forward. Place the hands on the backs of your thighs and then comfortably make your way down to your back. If maybe elbows need to come down first, that's okay. And then once you're flat on your back, place one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. Separate the feet to mat width distance apart and let the knees fall into one another so they can support each other. Gently tuck your chin in towards your chest. Take a few breaths here. My eyes sort of naturally close, so if you're like me, maybe closing the eyes will help you bring a little more focus to the self to start the class. But eyes don't have to be closed, whatever's comfortable, as long as the focus is on the breath. Relax the muscles around the brow. And follow every inhale and every exhale for the next 10 to 15 seconds or so. Place your arms out along the floor at shoulder height, palm face up to the ceiling, and separate the knees so they're no longer touching. Nice and slow, let the knees fall over towards the right side of the mat. So let them fall to however is comfortable for you. They might not touch all the way down to the floor, and that's okay, there's no need. However's comfortable, then slowly draw the knees back up to center. So it might look a little different for all of us. Then let the knees fall over to the left. Knees come back up through center, and we'll keep repeating this movement for just a little bit. Not only are we getting a gentle stretch for our core and our internal organs, we are also opening up the hips. Nice slow movement. And now let's begin to add our head into the movement. So as our knees fall to one side, our head turns and looks out over opposite shoulder. Bringing our neck and our shoulders into the equation, still moving nice and slow. Maybe take another time or two, depending how fast or slow you're moving. Then find stillness with knees back up to ceiling, gaze is up to the ceiling. Draw both knees into the chest, interlacing the fingers, holding below the knees, feet side by side, and draw your thighs close to your body. If that's uncomfortable for your knees though, you can hold on to the back of the thighs instead. And release the hold of your legs, returning your feet to the mat, knees bent. Then let knees fall out to either side of the mat, bringing the soles of the feet together and reclined butterfly pose. If you're feeling a little too much sensation in the hips, you can hold on to the underside of the thighs and sort of prop the legs up a little bit. Now draw the knees together like you're closing a book and straighten both legs down the length of the mat. Draw right knee in towards the chest, interlacing the fingers, holding below the knee into wind relieving posture. Feet are flexed. Leg that's on the mat is nice and active, pressing into the floor. Chin is gently tucked in towards the chest. And switching sides, left knee draws in, right leg extends. And release, both legs are straight on the mat. Again, both knees drawn towards the chest, holding on to the back of the thighs, start to rock forwards and backwards, gaining some momentum so you can rock yourself up into a comfortable seated position facing the front of your mat. If cross legs are not entirely comfortable for you, you can take a loose diamond shape instead, bottoms of the feet loosely together. Starting with our sits bones, ground them into the floor. Find some length out through the spine, out through crown of head. Relax shoulders away from the ears. Hands can be on your lap for now or out at your sides. And work to stack the ribs over the hips and the shoulders over the ribs. Take a few breaths here. Sort of correcting our posture. And some of us might find it a little difficult to keep our spine upright, so it's okay if you need to sort of hang out in a slacked position and then find that nice engaged seated position once again. Keeping the spine nice and long. Bring your right fingertips out towards the right, placing them down towards the floor, creating a nice long line from shoulder all the way down to the tips of the fingers. Left hand comes up and over and holds on to the opposite side of the head, adding a little bit of a stretch here. And if you're feeling too much sensation with hand on the head, left hand can come back to the lap. Spine stays long as we relieve tension in the neck. Lift the head up through center and then let that right arm hang slack, bringing hands back to the center of the lap. Left hand extends out to the side, fingertips to floor. Spine is long, length throughout the arm. Free hand comes up and over to the opposite side of the head, adding a bit of a stretch. And releasing, head comes through center and hands come to the knees. Round the spine, drop your chin to chest, draw belly in towards the spine. Leading with the tailbone, start to lift and arch the spine, lifting and arching the chest, tilting head up to ceiling, shoulders away from ears. Tailbone leads the way as we round the spine, dropping chin back to chest. Again, inhaling as we lift and arch. Tailbone starts the movement, gaze is up. Exhale out through the mouth, round the spine, chin to chest. One more time. Deep breath in to lift and arch. Exhale to round the spine. Slowly return to our nice active seated position, spine long, shoulders away from the ears. Take a breath or two here. Rock forward into a tabletop position on the hands and the knees, knees under hips and wrists stacked underneath the shoulders. Lift up to the tips of the fingers, extend your right leg behind you, pointing through the toes, heel in line with hip. Flatten the back, so draw the belly in just a bit. Then give me a tabletop crunch, drawing me in towards the chest, rounding the spine, lifting away from the mat, drawing the belly close to the spine, then stepping or placing your foot into lunge. Ankle is below the knee. Slowly lift both arms overhead and hold here. Pressing down through the knee on the mat, finding length through sides of body, melting shoulders away from ears. As you exhale, arms lower down at your sides. As you breathe in, lifting the arms out in front, up overhead. Exhale, arms lower down at your sides. Breath in, lifting arms overhead. Last time, exhale. Then lift both arms back up. And bring hands through heart center, holding here. If you'd like to add a little bit to this pose, try tucking left toes onto the mat, challenging your balance, keeping your core engaged as you lift the grounded knee into the air, pressing out through the extended leg. Totally optional, knee can stay on the mat. You can focus on lengthening the spine, just focusing on the breath. If knee is lifted, we'll lower it down to the mat, uncurl the toes, extend both arms back overhead, separate the hands, and everyone bring fingertips down to the floor. Extend the forward leg long behind you, point through the toes, and return to your tabletop position. Left leg extends, heel in line with hip, flatten the back. Tabletop crunch, knee to chest, around the spine, lift the belly in, step or place the foot into lunge, ankle below the knee. Slowly lifting both arms overhead, holding here, relaxing shoulders away from ears. Opening from the front of the chest across the shoulders, deepen the breath. On your next exhale, lower arms down at your sides. Breath in through the nose, lifting arms overhead. Exhale, arms lower. Breath in, arms up. Exhale, arms lower. Bring both arms back overhead. Hands together, lower them down to heart center, holding here. Lifting the grounded knee off the mat if you did so on the opposite side. Keep core engaged, pressing out through right heel. Hips are square towards the front of the mat. Then we lower the knee down and uncurl the toes. Extend both arms overhead. Bring fingertips to floor. Extend the forward leg behind you, point through your toes, and return to tabletop. We're going to find some organic movement with our spine here. So you can keep with cat and cows, rounding and lifting and arching. Or maybe add some circles to your cat-cows, rounding as you circle, lifting and arching, continuing the circle. Maybe just wiggling the hips. If you need to, just close the eyes and find whatever movement comes naturally, moving your body and your spine any which way. If you are taking circles though, make sure to go both ways. Maybe rocking back and forth with a rounded spine, just some options. Try a few things out. Taking this moment to yourself, then settling into stillness in your tabletop position. Lower down to child's pose, hips to heels, forehead to mat, arms down the length of the mat. Keep the toes touching, but separate the knees enough to make some space for your belly, and we'll take a few breaths here to finish our warm-up. Focus comes back to the breath and back to the self. If you're feeling uncomfortable in your knees or your hips, try puppy pose instead, starting in tabletop. Lowering elbows down to mat and relaxing the neck. You can take whichever option feels best for you. And whichever position you're in, take another few deep rounds of breath, breathing into the back side of the body and the sides of the body, breathing in, drawing in as much breath as you can, and slowly letting breath out. If you deepen the breath, find your natural pattern of breathing. Slowly meet me in a tabletop position, hands in the knees, spread the fingers nice and wide and tuck your toes onto the mat. Lift the hips to down dog, starting by lifting knees off the mat and engaging the core, keeping knees bent as we send hips up towards the ceiling, pressing belly back towards the thighs and gazing between the feet. Pressing firmly into the base and the top of the palm, particularly the pointer and the middle finger, the pointer and the thumb. Hollowing out the armpits, lengthening the spine like a nice steep ski slope. Don't hold the breath. Nice deep breaths here. Now look forward. Start to shift your weight forward and step or place your right foot into lunge, lifting up to just the tips of the fingers, sending your chest forward. Knees stacked over the ankle. Step up to the top of the mat into half lift. Feet are hips width distance apart. Back is flat. Hands to shins. Gaze is down towards the floor. And draw those shoulders away from the ears. Core is engaged. Slowly lower to forward fold. Gently bend the knees. Hinge forward from the hips. Drop belly to thighs. Let arms and head reach towards the floor. We'll take a few breaths here in forward fold. There's a lot going on in this pose. Keep the low belly engaged, pressing into the spine. Lead with the chest. Send it forward. Lengthen the spine. If the belly is far from the thighs, bend the knees a little bit more. Help protect your low back. Let the head hang heavy. Shake it yes and no a few times. Weight is primarily in the balls of the feet, but heels stay touching the floor. Tuck your chin in towards your chest, and one vertebrae at a time. Start to round the spine up into a standing position. Take your time here. There's no rush. Chin comes up from the chest last. Once you're all the way up to standing, stand nice and tall with purpose at the top of your mat with your palms faced forward. Give me a deep breath in through your nose, lifting arms out at your sides, arms up overhead, gaze up. Exhale out through the mouth, lowering arms down at your sides. Again, lifting arms overhead, breathing in. Exhaling to forward fold. Hands come together down through heart center. Gently bend the knees, drop belly to thighs, arms and head hang. Rise half lift, flatten your back, hands to shins. Step your right foot back into lunge, bringing fingertips to floor. Left knee is stacked right over the ankle. Then lower right knee down to the mat and uncurl the toes, top of foot to mat. Breathe in through the nose, lift both arms overhead. Breathe out through the mouth, lowering fingertips back to floor. Step back into tabletop, knees under the hips. Plant your hands flat to the floor. Lean forward into chaturanga, shoulders past the wrists, then bending the elbows, keeping them close to the body, bringing chest down to the mat first, and then the hips. If that was causing way too much sensation, however you make it down to your belly when I say chaturanga is fine with me. Elbows are pointing up to the ceiling. Press your hip points into the mat. Draw the breath in through the nose as you lift the chest off the floor into baby cobra. Then breathe out through the mouth into child's pose, hips to heels. Forehead to mat. Or remembering, you can always take the variation of puppy, elbows to mat instead. Take a breath or two here. As you inhale, rise back to tabletop, spread the fingers nice and wide, tuck toes onto mat, and exhale into downward facing dog, sending hips up to ceiling. Knees stay bent for now if this is your first couple of times practicing the pose. If knees are bent and you're like, I'm not feeling any sensation in my legs, you can start by pressing one heel down to the mat, then switching and pressing the other down and working here until maybe you feel comfortable straightening both legs, and that does not have to be today. Take some nice deep breaths every time we come to down dog. Look forward. Shift the weight forward. Step or place your left foot into lunge, lifting up to tips of fingers. Step up to half lift, feet hips width distance apart, hands to shins, back is flat. Lower to forward fold, bending knees, dropping belly to thighs. Tuck chin into the chest and round the spine, nice and slow, up to a standing position. Once you make it up, inhale, lifting both arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold, belly drops down to the thighs. Take your time. Rise half lift, flatten your back. This time, step your left foot back into lunge. Right knee stays over the ankle. And then we'll lower knee down to the mat and uncurl the toes. Deep breath in through the nose, lift both arms overhead. Exhale out through the mouth, fingertips to mat. Step back into tabletop, planting hands flat to floor. Lean into chaturanga, shoulders past the wrists, elbows close to body, chest first, and then the hips. Tops of feet to mat. Inhale, baby cobra, chest lift, shoulders wrap behind the heart. Exhale to your rest position, whether that's child's pose, hips to heels, or puppy pose, elbows to mat. Breath or two here. Inhale to meet me back in tabletop. Exhale to downward facing dog. Down dog is a complete body stretch. There's a lot going on. Maybe you're creating a lot of sensations. You're always welcome to skip a down dog. You can hang out in your rest position and then jump back in whenever you're ready. No pressure. Deepen the breath. Step or place your right foot into lunge. Lift up to tips of fingers. Step up to half lift, hands to shins. Lower to folds, belly meets the thighs, crown of head reaches to floor. Tuck chin into chest and round the spine up to standing, nice and slow. Chin comes up from the chest last. Inhale brings the arms overhead. Exhale takes you into forward fold. Rise half lift. Step your right foot back into a lunge position. Left knee is stacked over the ankle. Bring your hands to your forward thigh and extend the arms overhead into high lunge. Hips are squared towards the front of the mat, pressing out through the right heel. If the extended leg feels really tight, you can keep a soft bend in the knee for some ease. Holding here. Challenging our balance and building some strength in our core as well as our legs, we're going to start to lower our ribs down towards our thigh. As it comes down, we'll send our arms behind us. Then we'll inhale and lift the arms back overhead. Nice and slow. It's okay if you're wobbly. And you don't have to go down that far, however is comfortable. Open to five-pointed star, facing the right side of the mat, lowering arms to shoulder height, feet flat to the floor, facing forward. Then bring hands to hips. Adjust your feet so that you can press firmly into outer and inner ball and outer and inner heel, and then turn the toes away from one another. Bend the knees into goddess pose, stacking them over the ankle, sending hips down towards the floor. Still pressing into all four corners of the feet. So if the knees can't bend down that far, that's okay. You can stay here, here, whatever works for you and your hips. We're holding here, strengthening our legs, opening the hips, relieving tension in the hips, lengthening the spine. Straighten the legs, rising back to standing, then turn the toes slightly in towards one another. Hinge forward from the hips, bringing fingertips down to the floor. Bend the knees if you need to, if the legs feel really tight here. Walk the fingertips a few inches forward to help lengthen the spine, then gaze between the legs. And breathe here as we lengthen our spine. Get some fresh oxygenated blood towards our heads. Heels stay on the mat, but weight is primarily in the balls of the feet. Walk the fingertips in closer to the body and look forward, then walk the hands back into lunge. Left foot turns forward, hands frame the forward foot, right heel lifts off the mat. Step back into your plank position, drop the knees to tabletop. Lean forward into chaturanga, keep elbows close to body as you lower all the way flat to mat. Deep breath in to lift the chest, baby cobra, core is engaged. And exhale to child's pose, hips to heels. Take a few rounds of breath here. As you inhale, meet me back in tabletop. Exhale, downward facing dog, hips up to the ceiling. Look forward, stepping or placing left foot into lunge. Inhale as you step up to half lift, back is flat. Exhale as you lower to forward fold, belly to thighs. See if you can draw your inhale out as you slowly round your spine to standing. And exhale at the top. Next inhale brings the arms back up. Exhale, forward fold. Rise to half lift, flatten the back. Step your left foot back into a lunge position, right knee right over the ankle. Hands come to the forward thigh, extend the arms overhead, high lunge. Hips are square towards the front of the mat. Take a few breaths here. Draw the belly button close to the spine and start to lower ribs down towards the thighs. Strengthening our legs, strengthening our core, sending our arms behind us, knees stay stacked over the ankle. Inhale, lifting arms up, rising up. Exhale, 5-pointed star. Opening to the left, feet are flat, arms at shoulder height. Lower hands to the hips. Turn the toes away from one another and ground your feet onto the floor before bending your knees into goddess pose, stacking them over the ankles, sending hips down to the floor. Taking a few breaths here. If you want a little challenge here for your balance as well, maybe try lifting up to the tips of the toes. If you manage to make it up to the tips of the toes, drop the heels down to the floor and then everyone straighten the legs, rising up to standing. Turn the toes slightly in towards one another. Hinge forward from the hips, bring fingertips to floor. Walk the fingertips forward, lengthen spine, gaze between the legs. Walk the hands in closer to the body, then walk back into lunge. Right foot turns forward, left heel lifts off the mat, and then step into plank position before lowering to tabletop, knees to mat. Lean into chaturanga, keep elbows close to body, come all the way down. Deep breath in, baby cobra. Exhale to child's pose. Few rounds of breath here. Bring the attention to the breath. Notice the rate of the heart. Inhale to rise to tabletop. Then exhale to downward facing dog. Last down dog of the class. If you're familiar with other variations, or if there's any movement that you'd like to put in your body here, go ahead and do so now. Take another few seconds to yourself, personalize your practice. And there's no pressure, it's okay to skip the down dog or just hold it nice and steady. And then go ahead and step your right foot into lunge. Breathe in as you step up to half lift, hands to shins. Exhale to forward fold, belly to thighs. See if you can draw the inhale out as you slowly rise to standing. And then exhale at the top. Bring one hand to your chest, one hand to your belly. Lower your chin to your chest, closing the eyes or keeping your gaze focused on a spot on the floor. Relax shoulders down the back. Just take a few moments here to yourself. Being present in our bodies, bringing awareness to our bodies, feeling any sensations that we've felt from the practice, just taking notice of any thoughts that are going through our mind at the moment, or maybe repetitive thoughts that we've had through the class. Lift your chin from your chest and relax your arms down at your sides. Close your eyes for a moment. We're going to take the next few moments, or the next few poses with our eyes closed. All poses that we've done several times already. And if you mess it up or anything like that, there's no pressure. Just move with your breath, and that's all that matters. As we inhale, we'll lift the arms overhead. On the exhale, slowly lower to forward fold, belly to thighs. Try to keep the eyes closed as you slowly round the spine up to standing. Then relax at the top. One more time, deep breath in, arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Nice slow movement, even deeper breath. Rise to half lift this time. Keep the eyes closed, draw the shoulders away from the ears. Gently open the eyes. Start to bend one knee and then the other, relieving any lasting tension in the back of the legs. Find stillness before lowering into forward folds, belly to thighs, head hangs heavy. And gently swaying side to side, using the muscles in our core to move the upper body. Maybe let the head roll around a little bit, decompressing the vertebrae in the neck. Rise back to half lift, hands to shins, and step back into a plank position. We'll hold for a brief moment here. Don't hold the breath. Nice strong bodies. Then slowly lower all the way down to the mat on our belly. Turn your head to one side, resting on your cheek. Lower arms along the sides of your body, palms face up. Big toes touch, heels fall out to either side of the mat. Wiggle shoulders away from the ears. And on your next exhale, hang heavy onto the floor. Let everything go onto your mat. Slowly turn your head to the opposite side. Gently wiggle your hips side to side, help relieve any tension in the low back. Then bring your chin to the mat and press yourself into child's pose. Try taking a rounding variation this time, arms along the sides of the body, palms face up to the sky, forehead on the mat. And let the shoulders roll down towards the floor. Slowly rise to tabletop position. Swing your legs off to one side of the mat so hips can come down in the seated position before letting the legs extend down the length of your mat. Sit up nice and tall, find staff pose, planting hands on either sides of your hips, finding length through the spine, holding here, not holding the breath, and relaxing to neutral. Bend your knees, planting your feet on the mat. And press the hips up into reverse plank, aiming to lift the hips about in line with the knees, opening the shoulders and the chest, strengthening our core and our glutes, and let the hips lower back down to the mat, nice, slow, and controlled. Same thing, one more time, hips lift, reverse plank, gaze is up, lifting chin from chest, then lowering hips back down to the mat. Place your hands on the back side of your thighs. If you happen to move out of the center of your mat, go ahead and center your hips in the center of your mat now. Then slowly make your way back onto your back, just like how we started the class, coming full circle. Once you're flat on your back, straighten the legs onto the mat and just hang loosely with no expectations, however you like to lay on the mat. Take another couple rounds of breath here. Maybe head sort of hangs off to the side or one leg's bent, just sort of hanging out here, no expectations. Just slowing down our movement as we start to close out the practice. Let's come into a more uniform position, straightening the legs down the length of the mat, drawing our arms a little closer to the sides of the body. Drawing right knee in towards the chest for wind relieving posture, holding below the knees, flexing the feet. Massaging and activating our digestive system. If you'd like to add a little extra to this pose, we have done a lot of hip opening today. You can draw the knee out towards right armpit. So just adding the hip into the equation here. Maybe getting a little stretch for the hip flexor. A little extra stretch, I should say. And then release, straightening your leg onto the mat. Drawing the left knee in towards your chest, holding below the knee. And if you're feeling that pressure on your knee, remember you can hold on to the back of the thigh. Moving the knee out to the armpit if you did so on the opposite side. And taking another few rounds of breath here. Gently release, straightening the leg onto the mat. Then drawing both knees into the chest, holding below the knees, feet side by side. This time maybe adding a little bit of movement, gently rocking side to side. If you did find movement, slow down until you find stillness. Place the hands on the back side of your thighs and extend your legs up to the ceiling into our inversion. Heels line up about over the hips. And we'll settle into some stillness here for the next 30 to 40 seconds or so. Inversions are helpful to induce relaxation. They help to calm our nervous system, bringing some blood flow to the area, helping to relax the body. But if it feels a little difficult to keep the legs upright, you can gently bend the knees, drawing thighs close to the body while keeping the heels elevated. We are way more than halfway through, just a few more moments here. And draw the knees completely back in towards the body, placing your arms out along the floor at shoulder height, palms face up. Knees fall to the right into reclined spinal twist. And head turns to the left. If you feel uncomfortable with the knees stacked, you can sort of stagger the legs, straighten the top leg a little bit, or lower the knees away from the hand. Feel free to make adjustments to make yourself comfortable. This is our last pose before our final resting pose. Perfect time to close the eyes and start to again relax the muscles around the brow and clench the jaw. And bring the focus back to the breath. Slowly draw the knees to the center of your chest and let them fall over to the left. Head turns to the right. Again, maybe making any little bit of movements or adjustments to make yourself more comfortable. Slowly draw the knees back to the center of your chest, drawing them close to your body. Gently lifting your head off the mat so forehead meets or reaches for the knees. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold the breath at the top. Squeeze the body nice and tight until you're in a tight little ball, holding here. Then exhaling to release so you can lay flat on your mat into our final resting pose. Arms and legs are spread nice and wide. Let the toes fall away from one another. Palms are flipped up towards the ceiling and eyes are closed. Bring the attention back to your breath. And I want you to follow the rise and fall of either the chest or the belly. Letting every exhale move you a little deeper into relaxation. Let every exhale relieve any lasting tension in the body. Let every exhale sink a little heavier onto the floor. If the focus has wandered, bring the attention back to your breath, following the wave, the rise and fall of every inhale and exhale. Noticing the seamlessness between the twos. One melts into the next. Slowly start to deepen your breath and begin to wiggle your fingers and wiggle your toes. Bring movement back to the body. Nice and slow, roll over to the right side of your body and take a moment of stillness here on your side. If your head or your neck feels uncomfortable, you can use your arm to support your head. Keeping the eyes closed or your gaze lowered to the floor, slowly press yourself up into any comfortable seated position. And I encourage you to take your time. If you're not quite in seated yet, that's okay. Just keep your ear open so you know where we're headed. As always, to finish class, we take 3 cleansing breaths together as one. That's breathing in through the nose and exhaling out through the mouth. Today we're going to take a 4-count breath. We will break the inhale into a count of 4 and break the exhale into a count of 4. If after the first round of breath, that 4 count you notice it comes easy to you, I encourage you to extend your count to a count of 5. It's okay if we're not quite in sync because of it. I prefer you take a deeper breath. So that we're all together, let's start on an exhale, releasing all the breath we have out of the body. Then start to breathe in through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, mouth, 3, 2, and 1. Breathe in, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 3, 2, and 1. Breath in, 2, 3, and 4. Breath out, 3, 2, and 1. Take a second to thank yourself. Give appreciation for taking this time out of your day for yourself and for this practice. I thank you for letting me lead you on this practice. There's a light that exists within me that honors and respects the light that exists within each and every one of you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the practice. I know it was a little challenging, but I'm happy if you stuck with it. If you enjoyed this class, there's a new version of this class that is aired every week. If you enjoy my teaching style, but you're looking for something a little more challenging, I do teach a core yoga class, structured much the same. However, some of the poses are cut out and replaced by core targeting exercises. We have lots of classes to offer though at UMBC, not just yoga, so try them out and let us know what you think. And then good news, hopefully as long as everything clears, next month we'll be hosting some outdoor classes and I will definitely be there. I'm super excited to teach in person again. And then hopefully by the fall semester we'll be back in full force. Thanks again you guys for practicing with me and enjoy the rest of the week.